What's good, guys, and welcome to a brand new podcast in the ANZ region called Good Call, Bad Call. And we're going to be covering everything concerning the ANZ region, especially the ANZ HGC Premier Division, which has just kicked off for 2018. Big news to come, obviously, and even bigger news to cover this week. We had the first week of results, 2 days on both Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 Sydney time. So make sure you definitely tune in on Blizzard ANZ's channel. That's all to come, but we had some fantastic results with that. We're also going to be covering some of the replays from some of those games. What were the defining moments? How did these teams get the results that you now are going to see? Then covering the power rankings themselves, how did we initially, as the three panelists, think these teams would fare over the course of this one phase? And how they can actually transition as these weeks go by. Obviously, we're going to see roster swaps, we're going to see changes, we're going to see performance dips and performance gains. So how is that all going to be affected? Obviously, the upcoming games for week 2, we've got the schedule with us as well. So where do we see these teams going in those matchups? And to finalize our picks for the league as a whole, as to who we think is going to be the 2 top teams qualifying to go over to Rio de Janeiro. Now, Strider, results from previous week. Obviously, there was a lot that happened. We had, I believe, if I can do quick math, yes, I can, because I'm English, 7 games. 7 games of action. Obviously, a lot
You've done
happened.
well. You have done very well.
Thank you very much, bro. I did drop out of high school. I didn't. That's a lie. But let's roll with the clip. 7 games, obviously. Starting off with Nomia. How do you think their performance was? They only had 1 best of 3, but it started off well for them.
Yeah, look, first game of the year for everyone, and the first game of the season for them as well, because obviously they didn't play through the preseason. Haven't played anything since they fell to dark side at the end of last year. So I was excited to see them. Obviously, I've seen them with some scrims. Looked pretty good, but they did not look anywhere as good as I expected them to, as they did in round 1. Super clean. Obviously, first game on the BOE, 9-minute game against Outlaws, I think. I mean, it was 5 or 6 kills to nothing in about 7 minutes. So it was super clean. They carried it through into game 2. I could not have asked for anything more. They were on top of the game, looking very synergistic. Everything was perfect. Macro play was great. If you looked at this from where we're seeing it, they're looking like a very strong contender to go to Latin America.
Yeah, I think it's probably, after watching those games, there's no question that they will be in Latin America. I think we're going to have to find out who the other team will be joining them and if they're going in first or second. But yeah, very clean games from them. Very excited to see how they do throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think it really resonates with the point that I tried to bring up before about, they lost the dark side of last year. They were the kings of ANZ. Nobody could touch them. A lot of teams and a lot of players themselves was actually really demotivated to even try and beat them because they realized that skill disparity was such a big margin. Yeah. But to see them come out the gates and go, look, that wasn't us. We're actually really annoyed that we lost that game and ultimately lost the chance to go to BlizzCon. This is us back, 9 minutes against a top competitor. It's Outlaws, obviously. They auto-qualified from that LAN last year as well. This wasn't any pushover game. So a 2-0, and in such decisive timing as such, really, really set the tone for the 2018 campaign. But let's jump into Outlaws. Obviously, that was their opponent. But how did Outlaws fare in the 2 games that they had in week 1?
First we saw them lose to Nomia 2-0. Their performance, I don't think they'll be very happy with. Obviously, we did have seen them quite a bit recently with the preseason tournament, which I think they played very well with the substitute. But yeah, I definitely did think that they'd do a bit better against Nomia. It was kind of like they made one mistake and then Nomia kind of just had them stuck really, and they couldn't really find a way back into the game. And obviously, their other game, we did see them take on QM Warriors, which was off stream, and I believe they did only play 1 game because QM Warriors couldn't field a roster for the second. But I think we all knew what the result would have been for that game. I guess the team that we think is going to end up third against a team that we don't really rate too highly, kind of at the other end of the table. But yeah, they'll definitely be looking to improve for next week, I think.
I think a few good points you made. I have been watching them a lot, obviously, through the preseason cup when they played exceptionally well. A lot of the scrims have been playing really well as well. But the big thing I noticed was they were just out of position a lot. And Nomia is the team that's going to capitalize on that. Yeah. So especially on BOE, when they were probably coming into it a lot warmer than Nomia have been, as we said, and just constantly out of position. And that one out of position that Meg was pushing Nomia's lead further and further in front. So I think Outlaws are going to get better and they're going to improve. But after week 1, they're really going to have to go back to the drawing board and make sure that these little mistakes aren't happening, because obviously, they've got big games still to come. These teams in the Crimson and the 3 or 4 kind of ranked players or teams are going to give them some time to get there.
For sure.
I mean, that wraps up for Outlaws. Aztec also had 2 games on the night for the Tuesday. They first of all went up against Downfall off stream, and then they faced Crimson straight after. So, I mean, starting with you, Strider, Aztec, where do you rank them in the grand scheme of things? I mean, the first one for me between them and Downfall is a very tightly close match. To see a 2-0, is that the result you were expecting?
I mean, I was rating Aztec pretty highly. I know that obviously there was huge roster swaps, obviously Hacky going out, then Deceptive leaving as well. So there's a lot of going around in that area. But they picked up 2 pretty good players, like Lucky Dog and Domi, strong players that I think are going to bring a lot to them. I think what we did see, though, is that they've only had a couple of weeks, if less, probably, to get that synergy going, and Downfall capitalized on that. And I know on the flip side, we probably weren't expecting as much from Downfall. They were playing pretty average through the open ladder.
Yeah.
So I was pretty hype about this game. It was great to see that Downfall come out strong, got the 2-0. I know that Aztec's going to improve. I think they've got a big ceiling and a skill cap to get to. So I'm excited to see where they go over the next few weeks, but kudos to Downfall.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think both these teams, Downfall and Aztec, I think do have a lot of room to grow. More the inexperienced teams, but do have players that are very highly ranked in solo queue, but don't really have as much competitive experience as these other teams. I definitely, for Aztec, would put up a bit of a better fight, but then also, as you said, I didn't think Downfall would come out swinging like that, which is good to see for them, really,
So, I mean, an argument could be made that Downfall really rose the bar. Somebody could even say that, Aztec dropped the ball because they came into game number 2, or series number 2 up against Crimson, really bringing the pain, really bringing the heat with a quirky draft and an interesting strategy on Battlefield of Eternity, which really put Crimson in a bit of a predicament. Obviously, we've seen them during the preseason. We know they are very diligent in their scrim and studying schedule, but to see them put on, almost the brakes were put on them at the very start. A lot of people are almost like touting him as the Nomia Slayers of 2018, right? So to see Aztec go into the first game so strong, despite the 2-0 score, does, as you mentioned, with the limited experience they have, scream that success is just around the corner, Strider.
Definitely. Aztec, I think that was almost a warming up process for them. They brought in these new players, they had to play some competitive, and Downfall got the better of them. They came into these games against Crimson, a whole new different team. I think that had time to warm up, relax, get into it, get the jitters away, and they played some really good hots. I think that they're going to be real big improvement over the next few weeks.
Cool. Yep.
So we touched on Aztec there. Also, we touched on the matchup with Downfall as well. But then Downfall on Thursday night, so they played 2 games across 2 nights. They went up against Rich Gang, with Rich Gang taking the win in a 2-1 due to a forfeit. Now, this one was touted to be Rich Gang being favourite, given the amount of experience they have, not only from Heroes of the Storm, but from other MOBAs, especially players like Fesh there, Morton.
Yeah, for sure. I think most people did kind of rate Rich Gang to be in either 4th or 5th position this season, just behind Outlaws. But yeah, I think the way they played against Downfall wasn't really the most convincing. Obviously, they did have in some last-minute substitutes. But yeah, I think overall they have a lot of really good players. That don't always have the most competitive experience, but they are very mechanically good. And they also took played the game against Crimson as well, which I think they also performed quite well in against Crimson. Kind of the same as Aztec, as kind of playing a lot better against the better team, putting up more of a fight, but then against what we'd say is the weaker team, not really playing as clean. But yeah, I think played as bit worse than I expected, to be honest, but will be interesting to see what they do, especially as they might need to have a roster shuffle without Booty competing anymore, which is sad to see him go, but hopefully the team can go well after he's gone.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think you make a interesting point, as I said, that these lower teams are probably playing better against these better teams, just because they're throwing it out there. They've got nothing to lose. They're going
exactly.
And they're playing stronger. A lot of the games that you're seeing, Rich Gang were taking very, very late games with Crimson, and probably could have grabbed one there. So I think Rich Gang, Downfall, Aztec, all these kind of middle feeders are going to have strong seasons, and it's good to see that this Premier League is going to be a strong one. We've got 8 teams that are going to be really solid. So
for sure.
good to see from Rich Gang.
So we touched briefly on Aztec and Downfall before. Crimson, obviously, we discussed the 2-0 with them up against Aztec. Briefly touching on the one with Rich Gang, is there anything further to really elaborate on that matchup? Do you think we've pretty much covered it?
I think the problem with Crimson is just they weren't ready for these small teams. Maybe the egos got in the way. I don't know, but especially again Aztec should have taken map 1 BOE. Crimson turned it around with a few mistakes I think Aztec made, and that maybe through that synergy we did talk about. Rich Gang I felt probably was cleaner. I think Aztec played better than Rich Gang against Crimson, but Crimson just couldn't finish. Obviously, the Tomb of the Spider Queen game that they played against Rich Gang went to 28 minutes or something like that, and they took 3 keeps, and then in the end it was Winions that won it. So I think moving forward, especially against Outlaws, Nomiya, they're going to have to really learn how to close these games out. They're going to have to capitalize on their leads and make sure that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Crimson do get the 2-0s on both consecutive nights. But now, we briefly touched on Quick Match Warriors of Outlaws. Not really much more to say in that one, given it was a forfeited situation. But the final game of Week 1, Day 2, was Quick Match Warriors up against Nekomimi. Now, this is one touted by a lot of people to be a very interesting matchup in the lower half of the bracket. Nekomimi in that preseason did go up against Quick Match, winning it in a 1-0 series. But be it a best of one, not really the fairest representation, right, of the strength of both of these teams. We did expect to see a lot more coming out from the Quick Match Warriors going into this one, and that is reflected by the scoreline. Now, I'm sure you're going to discuss this here, lads, but Quick Match Warriors, in my predictions, are slightly higher than Nekomimi for the sole reason that they do have a lot of veterans in the region, almost touted like the NMD of old. Experienced players from a combination of different teams, bringing it together, looking to get some results, and with that, had that slight edge over the counterparts, Nekomimi, which, despite all this lack of experience, they don't look too dissuaded as a result, Morton.
No, I mean, Strider and I both had QM Warriors ranked fairly highly in our power rankings. I had them at 6, Strider had them at 5. Just because, basically these guys have been around for quite a long time. Very experienced players. They haven't always played in the top flight teams, but they've always been competing, I guess. Whereas you have Nekomimi, who are kind of very new players. I think a lot of people... I was definitely expecting a 2-0 from QM Warriors, to be honest. But Nekomimi put up a really good fight. The first game wasn't too close. The second game just went on forever, which Nekomimi managed to clinch, and then another really close game 3. So, Nekomimi definitely performed a lot better than I expected, which is good to see. But then I did also expect QM Warriors to kind of... that experience to kind of make them a bit more polished on the day. But it'll be good to see how both these teams grow as the season goes on.
Yeah, strong games. I mean, Morton hit on most of it. QM Warriors have got that veteran team. They got Leica, who's been to the top games. He's played on a top flight team, but he's got these guys he's played with before as well. Tommy and him did play for a little while together. A lot of old veterans coming in. I expect big things from them. As I said, I put them up pretty high. I think they're going to be a team that will knock out some of these bigger games, or give at least a real push for them. So maybe some 2-1s against, your Crimsons, Mia, Outlaws, those kind of teams. Nekomimi, the new kids on the block. So really anything they do this year is going to be awesome. I'm hoping they do take some games. And it's going to be a progressive year for them. They're going to really get the feel for competitive HOTS because it is completely different to that solo queue. So I'm excited to see how they progress as well.
Yeah.
It almost brings it back to that talking point of the psychological element of competitive video gaming as a whole, right? Obviously, we know HOTS in its own respective right comes down to drafting, execution, synergy being the main part of a Blizzard title where teamwork is so imperative compared to other MOBA games. But I think the psychological element, especially for new teams, is such a big hurdle to try and overcome, where you may be a little bit, for lack of a better word, tilted by results, not only in competitive games, but in scrims, and start to lose a lot of motivation for this. So if they can get over that hurdle as quickly as possible and realize, hey, we are the new kids on the block. We have a lot to prove. We are the ones that have all the development here. Hey, we actually pinched the spot from from teams like Pleb to Pro. Let's not beat ourselves up too harshly here. We deserve to be here.
Definitely. You're 100% right. 100% right. And that is a good point, because the fact that they don't have anything further to go back, they're sitting, probably one of our bottom teams. They can only go higher. So that's an awesome spot to be in for them. They're the underdog every game. So it's nice.
Any closing thoughts on that? Do you think, lads, we've pretty much wrapped up what happened during week number 1?
Yeah, good summary, I think. Yep.
That's week number 1 out of the way. Let's actually jump into some of the replays, discussing what happened during these games themselves. A few replays to come up between both Aztec and Downfall. We then had Crimson and Rich Gang, as well as Nomia up against Outlaws. So stick around, and we're going to discuss why these moments were so defining in the grand scheme of things. So this is the very first replay that we're going to be examining, and just really understanding how a team like Downfall has created a lead out of seemingly nothing. You can see they got level 10, and their counterparts, Aztec, are so dangerously close to that. Now, what's actually prevalent on the map right now? If you look at the Immortal counter, Downfall have smashed that. Now, it's going to go into that little intermission with the halftime show. What can they do? They're going to look to try and execute within this very small pocket of time that they have. Now, noting the positioning of these players, you've got Domi up on the top side, whilst the other 4 members are in the bottom lane. They are soaking for 10, but I think this is a misplay in the sense that Downfall realize that, hey, we can force a 4v5 given we have 10 already, and surely just one wave of XP and from those minions would get them level 10 regardless, right? So we're going to roll the clip and we're going to see exactly how Downfall executes and create a lead in what is a defining moment of this game.
Be warned, allies. I move to new ground.
Huge. You know, seeing the lurking arm out of Stukov there, Skimmy. Magic Gnome's just blown it straight in there. He's got the 3-man stun. The positioning for them is amazing as well. Downfall's really going to come in with a perfect engage. They've got their 2 tanks coming up the top side. They've got their damage and their support coming through the mid lane. Azog's kind of anchoring it a little bit here, but it's more so what he's going to do. What do you think, Skimmy?
I mean, Azog has to anchor. He has to try and really get some much needed information really for his team to decide, you know, how do we respond to this one. Now, there'd be 2 things running through my mind if I was Azog so far. You know that they're coming from 2 different angles. You've got Flays to your left and Shrek is Love to your right. Now, one argument could be made that, hey, we've just hit level 10. We have a Grey main as well as a Li Ming. If I can land a stun on the medic, we can look to go for that one-shot burst potential. And we can try and turn this thing around whilst we wait for Domi. Take a look at the minimap. Domi is still nowhere to be seen. He's in that top lane. I'm sure the comms are only coming through now that, hey, they are engaging on us. And Magic Gnome has really pulled out a big one with this arrow. The other argument could be made for Azog to turn left and go for Flays, because what does Flays have? He's holding his ultimate for the meantime. Obviously, there's a lot of interrupts for it. But you'd imagine it's going to be a mosh pit. The mosh pit lands. There's a whole bunch of wombo combo that they have to follow things up with. The power slide, that initiates to follow up this arrow. You've then got an Entomb, a Warden's Cage, Tetherbind. You've got a lot of dispositioning and a lot of CC to really prevent Aztec from coming up with any response at all there, Strider.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Let's roll the clip and see what happens. I think the big point here is you see Lucka's kind of been isolated. It was probably not what I expected, but Magic Gnome's put the damage straight onto Lucka. Downsailers look to be in pretty good position, like they've almost escaped it now. As Azog can kind of anchor the Flays and Subfish out, but where we sit now, Lucka's going to go, and they'll probably lose 1. What do you think about the positioning here, Skim?
I mean, you see Magic Gnome jump across, instantly realizing that Lucka's out of position. Cool, let's put some damage onto him. He has to concede death. He does have go for the throat in the end, but it's not going to really do too much damage at this stage. It's really that execution ability, and especially when you can see the beam from Shrek is already there. Safeguards, I mean, it's that same case in point example again, right? It's not going to do too much. So he's going to try and jump in here, try and pad some damage, allowing Doubt to try and turn things around. But the positioning here is really, really interesting for me. You can see they're starting to funnel into where Sailor is. Konya's already jumped on through, and they're looking to isolate him because that lurking arm could be the big make or break whilst Domi is still rotating. He's only at their night camp now, so still a long time before he can respond.
Definitely. Look at this.
Yeah.
Sailor's completely lost. Domi's still just coming down. Obviously, Douse got out, so that's not a bad thing. He's moved in situation bot side, but Sailor's definitely going to fall here. They've used the double ultimate on it. Maybe an over-engage, I'm not sure, but, you know, you're going to secure the kill. As you can see, Azog coming around the backside now looking onto Shrek. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel as if it's actually a good play, in the sense that Azog is gone for, you know, he's gone for Give Me the Axe. He is going to actually be able to output a fair bit of damage. And Medic is very susceptible to dive, right? She can heal others at an exponential rate, but is quite susceptible herself while she's in combat. Now, I feel as if we discussed before that choke point of 3 members collapsing onto Sailor. Let's be honest, there really isn't anything that Azog can do. He is a Mirrodin. He's not a Johanna. He's not a Diablo. There is no APOC. There's no way for him to breathe some time into Sailor's direction, right? So I like the call here for Azog to jump on in. try and even the score out. Still, we're waiting for Dobby to get across. And Dow is a bit conflicted, Where do I go? Where do I put my damage into? These 3 members down here, these 3 beefy targets, might I add. Or do I try and back up Azog here and look for that one pick and make a bad situation far better?
Definitely. I mean, to be expected. They got the kill down there on the Stukov. It looks like Shrek's going to fall here. Dowd obviously came in to follow Azog up. We're going to keep rolling the clip and just kind of see what happens from here as well.
Yes, you see he does fall in the end. Azog is going to get punished as well for his sins. But, Slim Drone does come across. Now, it is on ETC of all things, but it just shows you that he's not afraid to pop those cooldowns. And that could have been the make or break, right? If that fight had continued any further, regardless of who it went on to, they are going to find some value in whatever capacity. Domi only just rocking up to the fight now. He's realizing that, it's just too little too late. There's not really much that he can do. Doubt, once again, still zoned away. They weren't able to find the kills that they needed to really get the resets. And, it really started with Greymane being taken out of the equation.
I think the big point we have to notice here is this is the defining point. They took their window. They had that level 10 just in advantage. Yeah. And they made the engage happen. This is kind of the turning point of the game because they got them 3 kills. 3-1 as you trade. They're going to get that full immortal and they're going to really start pressuring the keeps.
And it's something you'll find that a lot of really good teams will do, right? Is they will not wait for a team to make a mistake and capitalize on it. No, they themselves will create those mistakes. They will force those engagements. And no better example than that in spotting that hate. They're so close to level 10. Domi's out of position, a great arrow, and it all goes from there.
Cool. Let's move on to the next game.
So this is the second clip of the night between both Crimson and Rich Gang. This one was actually taken off stream when they went to Cursed Hollow. Now, this is actually a really interesting game. A little bit different to what we saw in clip number 1 for the sole reason that the kill count as well as the level count is so identical, really. Looking actually at the minimap itself, what have we got to notice? You can see that both Greymane and Leeming have been up in that top lane. They've been going for their camp, looking to try and get some value out of it. Now, this works in the sense that if they win a team fight, then they have prepped a win condition in, insane macro pressure. Obviously, Rich Gang aren't too concerned about this one for the main part because they do have a Dahaka that has the global with the Brush Stalker to come on in. Now, why is this important? Because Rich Gang have invaded Crimson's jungle and have gone for the boss. This is actually a really good call, given that they have that global and they know that Crimson are split as a 5-man unit. Now, the only concerning part for me, though, is, really the heroes are actually trying to take this boss down. It's Chromie, which we know isn't the best at PvE objectives. You got a Hanzo, which is fantastic, but he hasn't gone for the scatter arrow build, which melts this. And in between a Malfurion and an ETC, you're not really going to accomplish too much. You don't have that attack speed bonus anymore. It's being traded to armor so many patches ago. So we'll roll a clip here, and a good play has to find value, and that's what we're going to find out.
All right, so the Twilight Dream's come out, Skimmy. What's your thoughts on this?
So I like the Twilight Dream for 2 reasons. One, it buys some time because you can see the Brush Stalker animation already coming out. They're respecting that hate. We are going to force this fight. We need everybody here. We actually have the jump, given that I had that global compared to Leeming and Greymane. Ideally, I can try and find a pick. So the Twilight Dream, what does it really mean in the grand scheme of things, however? The 2 people that is isolated are a Garrosh and an Uther. Now, between those 2, there's a lot. An insane amount of CC that just buys him so much time to just find that pick and allow, once Leeming and whatnot have rocked up to the party, to find that kill. What does this mean, though? Jim Jam has to follow this up. Now, you've seen him just jump across the wall. He's dipped down into this sort of semicircle, looking to try and put some damage onto Jesmis. Now, whilst this is good in that it, deducts some of the armor, it's a hard hero to kill. Blaze is not easy. He's like Garrosh. He's extremely tanky in his nature. Plus, he'll have that bunker. He can really set up this sort of pincer maneuver with them all coming from left, right, and above. So I want to see an arrow come out here. I want to see them follow up this Twilight Dream, and they have to ensure this for the sole reason that Fesh, uncontested. This is the dream for a Chromie, to sit back, poke from afar, and find that one shot. Most likely not going to happen on a Garrosh, but if they can try and take out Uther, would really set this fight well and would ideally allow them to finish off this boss.
Cool, let's roll this clip. Huge defining point for me right here. I think you're right, the arrow had to come out, but it was probably about a second late. They had the double isolate with the Twilight Dream. Uther Garrosh were both clumped. If he let it out a bit earlier, Fesh flops straight on it. You probably take out the Uther, like you said. What do you think?
I mean, 100%. And you see it go through now, and now there's a lot of ultimates and a lot of windows of opportunity that have passed because, as we already mentioned, there is so much CC to allow Leeming and Greming to go to work to get the resets to do their DPS duties that you're not going to get such a golden opportunity, for lack of a better pun, than what was just given to you there. So you're going to see KVA, the sun is about to expire. He can just run at these members. He's going to get armor. He's going to be very beefy in nature. He has an Uther to back him up for even more armor. This guy, I mean, he is a living raid boss at this stage. He's going to collapse onto Fury and Fesh, and we'll roll a clip and we'll see exactly what happens.
Huge point here. I personally think, Deceptive's probably put himself out of position here. He's really need to be, in the thick of things here. He's tried to go for the isolate on the Azure and Ultivian, but now they both walk straight past him. Greymane's coming straight in. Caver's just taunted the two squishies of the team, really. Your Chromie and your Malfurion. Deuces is kind of isolated here with the bunker there. So they're just going to come right in and they're going to take some armor. I think Crimson's just turned the fight purely by positioning and probably not hitting those ults earlier. What do you think, Skim?
100%. I mean, Jesmez was buying time. He single-handedly zoned out Jim Jam when he could have got into that little midpoint with that semicircle to get damage across to follow up his arrow to find that kill. He's been zoned this entire time. Now he's coming around the corner saying, well, do I try and go for KVA or do I split my attention onto the bunker? The bunker in its current position is so superbly placed because it's in the middle of this pincer maneuver. DPS on the right, tanks and supports on the left. They're going to collapse onto this boss and collapse onto this bunker point. In terms of what this means, I mean, crucial ultimates have already disappeared. You're not going to find a chance now to actually get that temporal loop off. When can Deuces reliably land that mosh? But he can't because Member's going to be juking in and out of this bunker, causing all kinds of problems. Plus, the armor that it gives you means that you're not going to be able to get that one shot that you're looking for. And just to touch briefly on KVA, he flicked the Malfurion into Chromie to allow a slowed down Groundbreaker, easy taunt. And as you'll roll the clip, you'll see that the DPS can do their job.
So as you can see, pretty much exactly what happened for it. The Greymane came in, Caver and him got the 2 kills on the Mouth and the Chromium. Now they're really isolated. Jim Jam is pretty much dead here. And the other important factor we mentioned earlier is that top lane's still pushing. Dahaka didn't have time to clear that out, so they're getting a lot of pressure in the top lane. They've just got 2 kills. Curse is now coming up. They're going to deny the Curse, for one. And I think this is a massive turning point for the game because they were trying to get a boss. They were really trying to push it further, and they've just been really halted, and now Crimson's going to really start moving forward.
Yeah, summed up beautifully. As you mentioned, you've got top lane pushing. You're going to be in the bottom lane as well. You're going to want to try and push that one out. And you'll see a lot of teams do this where they push out the lane where their boss is because then the enemy has to deal with that. They can then go to their own boss quite comfortably knowing that's where all the members are. That gives them that vision in a game where vision is very frugal. But I think, yeah, it really did come down to Jesmes and his bunker positioning, buying time, zoning out Jim Jam. Jim Jam literally couldn't do anything. And it was almost a bit funny in the sense that the bunker actually acted like a revolving door, right? You saw Ultivian jump into it, pop out, go for the throat, bang, there was the kill. And there was no chance of any counterplay because all those members would have picked up armor. And Jim Jam, if he tried to try and shred that armor, it would have done nothing, right? So absolutely massive moment for Crimson and really blew this game wide open.
Definitely. I think you're right. The bunker positioning on point made everything a lot easier.
So this one here is the third and final clip from the week 1 showing another defining moment in this game. And much like game number 2 and what we described there, the scoreboard really tells the story so far. 0 kills, no first blood, even on XP and levels. But this is classic Nomia. This is what we know them for. They have that confidence and they have that ability just to be aggressive when you would question it otherwise. And they are going to go for the aggressive invade here, respecting the fact that currently Outlaws are... well, they're spread. You can see Coffee in the mid lane. They do have Gondo up in the top side. He has been missed. The lane is actually pushed against Nomia, so they have to imagine that he's either on the rotate or looking to find some value. But this is really, really crucial that they've gone for this aggressive invade, and this is Nomia looking to try and really assert their dominance on the map, where there is no clear advantage for either side so far, Strider.
Yeah, I think you have to remember as well, like, this is super aggressive. Greyman, you're saying they're out of position, but he's not that far out. He's a couple of seconds from getting straight on this fight. Dahaka can dig straight in. The other 3 members in Lucio, Tykes, and etc. are very close as well. So yeah, you're right. This is classic Namir, and this is classically trying to make an advantage and not holding back, waiting for teams to make a mistake.
So we'll roll the clip and we'll see exactly how things unfold. Now, the interesting point for me before we go any further is just to notice the positioning of Outlaws. You've got Lahal coming on in straight, directly through the channel. You've got Coffee on the flank, and you've got Icebolt on the flank as well. Now, Gondo hasn't brush-stalked in yet, which is already screaming to me, is it worth conceding? Yes, you can make an argument that he can just keep pushing top, sacrifice the Giants. They're not going to provide too much value at level 8. You've got every member there. They'll be cleared out in a couple of seconds. Just lick your wounds and roll the clip, right? So he hasn't brushed talk it in so far. Now, what I really want to see here is Icebolt, if he is going to make this play on the right-hand side, flank around, expose John and Vanilla. Ideally, the brush stalker comes into the exact bush we're looking at, and Coffee comes in from the left-hand side. Now, why do I say this? 3 members all coming at you from multiple directions. There is no time as a player to be able to communicate that and reliably have any kind of contingency plan. In that split second, you need to say, I'm doing this, or I'm going to make this play, right? And as you roll a clip, you'll sort of understand exactly how this Outlaws circle squad, if you will, deploys.
I think you can notice here, you're right. Dahak is just digging now, okay? Yeah. Coffee hasn't come in the right way. If he's come in on the same ice as Icebolt, they've come straight on Vanilla and John. They could easily create some pressure. I know that he's trying to go in the camp, but the camp's already capped now. So they're in a 4v5. Dahak is not there. Coffee's in the middle of nowhere. What do they do from here?
So, I mean, at this stage, I'd be, as Icebolt, looking to try and peel away and say, look, let's just concede this camp. Hiccup, or he's Lucio, so he can obviously be very immobile. Very mobile. Lahal, well, I mean, Lahal's now got himself into a good situation. He can use the overkill. He can sit back. He's got grenades. He can look to try and cleave members down, which is fantastic for him, right? And I'd love to see Coffee now flank in from the left, follow up to Harker, and say, cool, our power slide is down, but still we can try to expose the backline like they're trying to expose ours.
Interesting one there. What is your thoughts on them fighting on the Giants? Like, obviously Namir's capped them already. What do you think's going to happen here?
So I think it's a misplay. I think there's no other way to describe it. And the same thing happens. Gondo comes in and channels onto this cap, right? He goes in just like Icebolt did. He goes for the drag. John says, I don't seem to care about this. Barrels away to safety and goes, well, I'm not going to get punished. And the Hanzo back there, still 3 damage. Hanzo on his own at level 7 with that ability just to poke from afar. You'd imagine he's not fully completed that stack for his level 1 talent just yet, but he's just getting 3 damage. Hanzo all day, every day will just smash through these members. Coffee is coming in from the left-hand side doing what we were asking him to do. But I think the biggest point for me is just the lack of timing and the cohesion in the execution of that timing.
I think you're right. Gondo's gone in expecting the Falstad to stay there. He's just eat straight out. He's going to get easy damage, same as John. And now they're all clumped up. So he's going to throw a Q straight in. They get a bit of chunk, and we'll see what happens.
So still fighting over this one. This really works in favor of Nomiya, obviously, because they had the cleave damage. You can see, really, look at that. Just 4 members in his grasp. He's just applying dots for days. And he can single-handedly, keep himself topped up, really preventing Villain from actually having to chuck any resources onto him, allowing him to top up members like Penta. Because Penta, it's Garrosh, right? 36 armor. He is not going to die. He just stands through all the pain in the world and carries on like the trooper that he is. And as you roll the clip here, you're going to still see that, Ryu just single-handedly starts diving towers. He does not care. He just realizes that these are the easiest kills of the day.
So they get the 4-0 trade. What do they do next, Skimmy? What's the plan? What's Nomiya going to capitalize on?
So, I mean, the big point to notice...
A 4-0, yeah.
Yeah, the big point to notice really here is that there is the shrine available, and they don't decide to go for it. They don't rush it because there's still about 20 seconds before it's up and ready to rock and roll. And what do they decide to do? They decide to go full clean out mode on the mercenaries. So you can see right there, the boss is being picked up. They've then gone for their own giants and respectively also taken the knights. Now, by doing this, they put a lot of pressure in the bot lane, once again distracting Outlaws from going anywhere else or generating any kind of counter momentum. If we switch our attention to the top lane where those knights were picked up, it now allows John to keep Dahaka locked in place as well. And this really brings up our topic of global utilization. How can you play around it? How do you utilize it? When do you have to, lick your wounds and just sacrifice, be it a camp or an objective or whatever it may be, and just say, look, I'm not going to be able to get there in time, or hey, we're not in a advantageous situation. I should just clear this out and I should just push this back. Otherwise, we're going to lose far, far more if this doesn't go according to plan.
You're 100% right. They were 8-8 before that Siege Giant invasion. They could have just let them have it. It's a Giant at level 8. It's not going to do much. It's not going to get much value. They're already 5 members down. Dahaka could have just kept pushing the top lane, could have made some value up there and really put the pressure back on the Mia to counteract that global. But instead, they took the invade and really getting all those camps now really put the pressure hugely back on Outlaws.
You see a 2-level lead as this clip unfolds, and this is Outlaws getting a little bit desperate, right? As a full funnel just going straight on through on towards the villain, but the root, the silence, and the arrow is so clutch, and the turnaround with the last rites in this newly formed version of Mouthfeel is impeccable. John gets the fight first, he flies it in straight into the middle of chaos, and they say, hey, you're looking to try and win this one? No. We are the ones in control of this game. Once again, I beat Gondo to the punch, and he is in no man's land now. He can't actually do anything. And once again, you can see John and Villala as the budding duo, the best friends in the bush together. Just no pressure on them. It's just free damage.
Well, realistically, if Gondo dug into that bush, he probably gets a kill there. He gets a trade at least, and it puts more pressure back on the me because their backlinings get pressured. Instead, he comes into the other bush, and he's really out of position. He's going to get killed or at least put a lot of pressure from.
Yeah, there you go. You see Hiccup just get straight dropped. Gondo in that position. He can't do anything. Literally cannot do anything. He gets gusted away. Essence is going to be popped. Not much you can really do about that. The Burrow is going to go through, and this is another pick. And this is what we talk about. You lick your wounds. The map is lit up red right now. Mercs are being controlled. Lanes are pushed against them. And that all-important talking point from before this Strider, Night Camp is still getting belly up against that keep.
Definitely. I think this is the big factor that's turned. One, the Giant camps probably... They didn't need to come down on it. They didn't need to take the fight. They could have given up the Giants. And now the map's been painted red. Namiya are going to take this and they're going to run with it. That's what happens, and that's classic Namiya. That's pushing the advantage before the enemy makes a mistake. They make the enemy make the mistake.
There you have it. 3 fantastic clips to really showcase some of the finest talent in the ANZ region and some really defining moments as to what allowed those teams to get the victories on the night. We're going to be covering those every time on this show, so be sure to definitely tune in for that segment in particular if you're looking to try and expand your game and become a better player and really understand what it takes to become a Premier League team. Now let's jump onto the power rankings themselves. Let's actually see how these teams, in our opinions, stand out as a whole. Now, obviously, all 3 of us have submitted what we thought going into week 1. We thought these teams would stand out as. There is a little bit of a difference between some of these picks. Morton, do you want to start off with a few points for yourself?
Yeah, so I think going into the first week, I think a lot of people were undecided who would be at the top between Crimson and Nomia. So yeah, as you can see, Skimmy and I both had Crimson as number 1, and then Strider with Nomia as number 1. We all had Outlaws at number 3. I'm not sure if that's even going to change that much throughout the season. And then Rich Gang, Skimmy and I both had him at number 4. Strider, number 6. He can tell you why he thought that. But yeah, then we had Aztec between 4th and 5th. Then QM Warriors near the bottom as well. Downfall 6th and 7th for all of us. And then Nekomimi we all had at last place.
So I think you can make an argument there's a general degree of consensus that we believe the top 3 is pretty set in stone as to what teams they are. But the arrangement of that is very fluid. Whereas if you get down to the very bottom of the ladder, as we mentioned at the start of the show, Nekomimi, they are the team that have nothing to lose and everything to prove, right? 8th is their beginning spot. So let's not look at this as a way of being toxic or as a way of really putting a team down in the dirt, because that's nowhere near what it is. This is a case of them saying, this is where we start on our journey and this is where we're looking to try and grow from. I think the biggest talking point to allow Strider to begin his part is, the middle of the ladder. There was a lot of disparity where we've all swapped up based on what we've seen in scrims, games, and just overall feeling from when we actually talk to these players, Strider.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've all probably seen different things. We've all seen what's been happening in the scene with the preseason and then a lot of scrims as well. I mean, Aztec didn't have the best week, right? They dropped both their games, but I think they're going to improve, as I said. I obviously expected a little bit more from them. I think the 2 pickups they got were going to synergize a lot better, and their core 3 have been playing really well. Obviously, it didn't come that way, but they did show really good signs in the second half. Downfall didn't surprise me. Like in the few moments when I did write a few notes about it, I really expected them to be. I know I put them at 7s. I originally had them a bit high, but shaked it up a little bit of their performance at the end of the preseason. But they showed good things. I think Kuramori is my little difference as well there. I did put them a little bit higher because of the experience we mentioned earlier in the night. And Rich Gang, I think, they're a bit of a mixed bag. I think some weeks they're going to play really strong, and I think some weeks they're going to play really weak. So I put them in 6th just because that's where I felt they deservedly be. I mean, they played really well, and I think they really could come up to 4th, and they probably could drop back down to 6th. It's going to be a mixed bag through the middle of the pack. And you're right, Neko and Mimi have got nothing to lose. So hopefully they prove themselves and they take some big games this year.
Yeah, and I think to really follow up your point before with Rich Gang, obviously myself and Morton going in at 4th and yourself at 6th, I think that's a fair bit of buoyancy between where they would sit in this league, because they are a team I feel that have a lot of momentum on their side. We touched at the start to show the amount of experience this team has between other games and just within Heroes of the Storm over its short life, right? So I feel as if they put in the work, and if they can utilize their competitive experience, which is a huge factor outside of the game, above other teams, then they could definitely cycle between those ranks of 4th to 6th. I think there is still a big margin between them and the likes of, say, Outlaws and Beyond. But I mean, between that, I mean, Aztec, formerly known as GG Go Next, the reason I pitched them at 5th was, I was undecided as to how synergistic they would have been with those 2 new players, right? Their roster was very undecided. Their previous roster went 14-0, the only team to go undefeated in the open division. So I had to obviously give them a fair bit of props for that. But at the same time, you've also got to be a realist and realize, no team is going to be a god overnight. It happens 1 in a million. They definitely put up a good performance. And we saw from when we analyzed some of those clips that they have the potential to grow. It's just going to take maybe a couple of weeks, a few more scrims to down pat the communication as well as the comms. So that's it for what we started out with in week 1 leading into it. How have things changed going into week 2 though, Morton?
All right, so I think the main thing we see here is all 3 of us had the exact same top 3 in the same order. So all of us, after how Nomiya played in the first week, I think we've all easily got them number 1 at the moment.
Unanimous decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crimson, they did get 2-0s, but it was not very convincing. I think if they were to play like that against Nomiya and possibly even Outlaws, I definitely don't think they'll be walking away with a win. I think the biggest kind of team that proved us wrong this week would definitely have to be Downfall.
Mover and Shaker right there, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've moved them up 2 spots. Strider's moved them up 3. Skimmy's moved them up as well. Yeah, definitely kind of showed their worth this week. We also saw Aztec maybe take a bit of a step down. And Rich Gang, fairly similar spot. And we've also all moved QM Warriors to our 7th spot after their game with Nekamimi, which also wasn't very convincing, even though we thought it might be. But yeah, I guess that's how much the power rankings have changed with just 1 week's worth of games.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I've kept Quick Match Warriors in that same position because of the sole reason that when I've spoken to these guys and when I've really tried to understand their mentality going into this compared to some of the other, say, top dogs, they've said they're in it for fun. They want to play some competitive games. They are a bunch of players that have the experience, not necessarily at the highest level, but they have the ability to play, diamond and above, right? So they are the team that should have that edge over Nekamimi, hence why that bottom 2 is so cemented in place and why the top 3 is so cemented in place. But what's really exciting for me is that 4th, 5th, and 6th spot, it's always going to be shaking up. If you look at it between all 3 of us, we've all got different positions for every team. Apart from us mirroring it when it came to both Rich Gang and Downfall. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I think those 3 teams, I don't want to say in particular have the most to grow from. I just think that middle of the pack is probably the most volatile area right now, Strider.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, you're 100% right. I think all 3 of those teams can really make a push for, Nomiya, Crimson, Outlaws. I think Nomiya Crimson personally is still a little bit above Outlaws at the moment. So, these 3 teams can probably have a crack at Outlaws. But I mean, not forgetting that QM Warriors are still an experienced team, as we've said many times. So they've always got a potential to push into these middle lane. So it's going to be a good season. I'm excited. The competitiveness is there, and that's what we wanted from an open league. Premier League, and that's what we're going to get.
Absolutely. So, any closing thoughts here, lads, before we jump onto next week's schedule?
I'd first off like to say, I guess, that I'm actually really happy that it's like we can't actually guess what rankings people are going to be. Like maybe a year ago we'd be like, all right, Nomi are number one, and then
Yeah.
everyone else is competing for number two. I guess two and three were usually kind of not sure who's going to actually come second. You know who's going to come fourth? Probably that one other team that's actually trying to be really good, but maybe they don't have the experience. And then fifth to eighth a year ago, we probably wouldn't even be thinking about. So to actually see like these fifth to eighth teams actually competing with the likes of people that we'd be putting third and fourth is like just really good, just good symbol for the scene, really. Yeah.
Another
think-
awesome thing to say is we do have 2 teams that are going to Latin America now. It's not just the
Yep.
one
Yeah,
team that gets the international invite. So that puts even more fun into the games because, you know, your teams like Outlaws, Rich Gang, Aztec, Downfall, they've still got a shot to get top 2. I mean, it's a tall order, but, you know,
Yeah.
they don't just have to win to get there.
And I mean, if we run it back to, a couple of years ago to follow up your point even further, Morton, it was a case of, the top 4 being a bit of a 20-man boys club, right?
Yeah.
It was the same players. The top team was always the one that went to LAN, but the other 15 players were just recycled amongst each other until they found that perfect jigsaw puzzle mold, right?
Yeah.
So it is exciting to see that, there are a lot more teams and a lot more players interested and that we actually have a scene that is capable of hosting an 8-team Premier League. Now, let's divert our attention actually into next week's game. So week 2, we've made the predictions as to where we think those power rankings sit at. But let's actually dig down into the nitty-gritty itself. The very first game will be between Downfall and Crimson. Now, unanimously, all 3 of us, even guest KVA, have said that Crimson, no bias to him, of course, have said that Crimson are going to take this one out. Is that, fair to expect?
Yeah, definitely.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you got Crimson. They did look a bit rough, but they are still easily, I think, still a top 2 team. Whereas you have Downfall, who obviously did kind of prove their worth in the first week, but I don't think that they will have what it takes to take out one of the top 2 right now in the future. I'm not sure, but going into with only 1 week's notice, I think Crimson 100% take this.
Yeah, big point. You know, we kind of have all put them up in the power rankings this week, so 2 or 3 spots. This is a good opportunity for them to prove themselves. You know, if they even take 1 game, that's going to be big for them. So, you know, moving into the next weeks of the season, we've got a long season. If they can start putting some groundwork in here to take to the bigger teams, this is one of those games to make it happen.
Yep, for sure.
And going into game number 2, series number 2 at that, this is a bit of your David and Goliath situation, right? It's Nomia up against Neko Mimi, which I'm actually going to call Neko Nomia, given that Stump God and Penta are dating. So there's going to be that bonding.
Very
of,
cute.
Do I plug pull you and do I make Nomia lose because there's a bot playing for you? But all on a serious note, I think without beating around the bush, we know that Nomia are without a doubt the favourites in this one. I think really all the eyes, all the attention should be focused on towards Neko Mimi. How do they hold themselves? How do they present themselves? And what do they go into this preparation-wise as a unit for? Because very easy as an observer and very easy as a player to think, we're going to get rolled. What's the point? There are lessons that can be learnt. And we discussed before when we were analysing those clips, just how much you can learn from just studying positioning and macro and micro and all those components. And a team like Nomia will give you a masterclass, right, Strider?
Definitely. I think the big one for Nekomimi here is they've got to make sure they get the map they want. That's going to be a huge asset for them. I don't think first pick's going to really make a difference for them, but if they can get a map that they feel strong at and they can really try and make a difference, obviously Nomia is going to be good on any map they choose. But if Nekomimi can get one they're comfortable in, get a good draft, anything could happen.
And I mean, Nomia could even go into this game just not really, no preparation at all. Just kind of go in, laughing and joking around with it. And Nekomimi, they've prepared for it, Like Strider said, they get the maps they want. They could pull out even cheese strats. Even just taking one game off Nomia when you're currently, I guess, seeded as the 8th place team would just be absolutely insane. So just showing some signs of life against what we rate as #1 team right now would just blow people away, really. So that's what they
If
really should be
anything,
looking for, aim for, yeah.
Well, yeah, playing against Namia early on in the season gives them a good benchmark as well. They can really learn from these games, see what Namia do against them, and put it into practice against these other teams, this mid-level teams we've been talking about.
You just understand why that is a team that is obviously holding that #1 spot. Let's turn our attention now on to Outlaws versus Crimson. Arguably, for me, the biggest match of the night on Tuesday. This is what we've coined to be the 2 top dogs looking to try and crawl away at what Nomia have been able to achieve. All of us have actually gone for Crimson here. Now, one might say it's very easy to just go 2nd seed for Crimson, 3rd seed for Outlaws. But Morton, how do you think we expand this topic even further?
I feel like if both teams come out playing at how we've seen them play before, I think Crimson should take it, not comfortably, but I think they do have the edge out on Outlaws at the moment. But in saying that, like, it's Heroes of the Storm, anything could honestly happen. We've seen Crimson had a shaky week 1. Outlaws, they versed Nomia, which was a bit shaky, but it's also very hard to prove yourself against one of the top teams, right? But yeah, I think going into this matchup, Crimson definitely do have the edge. But yeah, like I said, it depends how they turn up on the day.
Consistency is going to be the key for Outlaws here. I mean, against Nomia, they did get steamrolled, right? But they were making a lot of small mistakes, stepping up out of position, easily getting those 1 or 2 kills. It wasn't a big kill game for Nomia in that BOE, but it was just those 1 or 2 kills that kept capitalizing their leads. And if they do that against Crimson, same thing's going to happen. So I'm really expecting, people like Gondo to make bigger plays on Dahaka, rotating in at the right time. That'll make a big difference to whether they're going to take games from Crimson.
I think this is a matchup as well where the team that prepares better than the other team is going to have a very big edge. Because, just working out drafting a team can just honestly, like, almost automatically win you the game if it's a very similar skill level. So
yeah, well, we look back to Crimson's game against Aztec on BOE. They got outdrafted. They almost lost the game. It was a couple of clutch plays at the end that they brought it back on.
Yeah, whereas I think if Crimson get outdrafted by Outlaws aren't going to let them get away with it. They're just going to take it off them.
So preparation really going to be the key in that. I suppose big matchup really is the biggest one of Tuesday night. But let's now turn our attention on to Thursday, where it all kicks off with Quick Match Warriors up against Aztec. Now, we've all gone for Aztec here, just discussing what we said before about how they played up against Crimson as well. It seems to be expected. Yes, this is a new team. Yes, they don't have the combined team environment experience that Quick Match Warriors have. But on a single basis, I believe that the players on Aztec are stronger as a whole. And let's not forget, 3 of these members had been together for quite a long time, back when Haki was captaining them. So it's really up to Laka as well as Domi Strider to, fit themselves and find their role in that team.
Yeah, I think this game could be closer than we expect. We've kind of said that QM Warriors, if they sync well, they're going to do well. We're looking at Aztec, as you said, to have Domi step up. We're going to have a look at Luckadog to step up, because I think the core is strong. Once we get the synergy from all 5 of them, I still think they're going to be a top 4 team if they can get that synergy. It's just to see how long it takes. And if it takes a few more weeks, it's going to really push them back down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like Strider said, I think this game's going to be closer than people think. Again, another game, I think a lot of preparation will kind of find you the winner, I guess. Aztec, do definitely have a kind of edge in terms of skill, synergy for me at this point. But then again, I also wouldn't be surprised if QM Warriors showed up big on the day and actually took this best of 3 out.
Interesting point. Let's now turn our attention on to another matchup for Nekomimi. They could actually have a rough week too. They're up against Rich Gang on their second match of the week. Now, we've all gone for Rich Gang, still keeping it unanimous across the board of all of our predictions this far. But, I mean, this is, in some regard, given it is a double round robin, this is, in some regard, actually a really good environment. If they can cultivate that kind of team environment to say, yes, we are versing some of the biggest teams now, let's not write this off. Let's not beat ourselves up too much about this. Let's actually use this as a chance to then try and contest these teams in that lower portion of the league. Because if we have this experience, whilst they don't, hey, we can pick up tips. We can pick up, lessons. And people are writing us off as the 8th seed, but we have all this to prove. And look at this. We're versing these good teams that can show us what we need to learn.
Well, it's Rich Gang's first game for the week as well. Nekomimi have already played Namir on Tuesday. They're going to have a lot to learn from that, which I think they're going to go down 2-0, but they're going to have a lot of VODs to go over. They'll probably have a bit more practice on Wednesday to look at stuff. And if they're going to take a middle team, I think this is the time to take it. Rich Gang, I think, will come in cold. They've only been doing scrims, nothing competitive. So look for this one. If I personally think if Nekomimi is going to win games this year, this is going to be one that they might win. I still think Rich Gang is going to 2-0 them, but it'd be awesome to see them come out and play well.
Yeah, for sure. And we're, with recent roster issues with Rich Gang, with Booty stepping down, like you said, now is a good time. I guess this is probably one of Rich Gang's weaker points of the season. They're not going to have as much time to grind. So if Nekomimi are to kind of show up against one of the higher seeded teams, this is definitely a really good chance for them to kind of show people what they're about.
Interesting points. And the final match of the week, the final match of week number 2, it's Rich Gang once again. So they're going to have that warm-up up against Nekomimi. They will then be taking on the Outlaws. So we say a warm-up against Nekomimi. I mean, either way you look at it, I suppose it can be considered that. It's a way for them to get out of that scrim routine and straight into that competitive mindset. Then to face Outlaws, I mean, how close do we really think this is going to be? We look at the power rankings, we see that Outlaws consistently across is third, but Rich Gang dips and dives between all three of us. So we've all said that we reckon Outlaws are going to win this one. What's to be expected?
I think, yeah, the experience from Outlaws kind of gives them the edge. I think if Outlaws can kind of keep it clean and simple, they should be able to take this out. But Rich Gang, again, you know, if they show up, they've got mechanically really good players. They can kind of surprise Outlaws, because I'm not sure how much respect Outlaws are giving them right now. They might be like, oh, it's like a 5th, 6th team. Who gives a crap? We're Outlaws. We're number 3 easily. No one below us is going to contest us. You know, if they don't prepare for this, I think Rich Gang could be in with a shout in this match. But I do think if Outlaws kind of play it solid on the day, it will be a 2-0. If Rich Gang are to take a game, I would be surprised. Yeah, definitely think Outlaws will take this one out.
On this note, you know, who is going to come in for Rich Gang? Do we have any idea of what's happening there?
Nothing I've heard of as of so far. I believe the situation with Deceptive Smurf is a delicate one. I don't believe it's going to be allowed, given the rules surrounding it. He was on a Premier team already. So I feel as if they're in this very weird predicament where they have to find a 5th, and the majority of the players that have competitive experience have been either taken or they've quit the game, or they just have no interest in playing the game competitively anymore, right? So I feel as if you're put in a position where you are looking to say, I mean, where do you go? Do you go to your ANZ, your Onyx Discord? You're looking for upcoming talent. You're looking at open division teams and thinking, hey, you know, is it something that you're interested in? Are you looking at even your Hero League games as an environment, right? And saying, hey, we're a team. You actually have some good synergy. Obviously, now that we have voice communication,
yeah,
that in its own right
makes a difference. Yeah,
a trialing process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Outlaws will take this game. I'd love to see Jan step up and play for Rich Gang like he was their initial sub. Be awesome to see. Bring back the old veteran himself. But just for the viewers out there as well, Skimmy's skipping over the last game, which was Nomiya Aztec. He thinks that Nomiya is going to win, but I don't know.
Well, that's it. You know, I scrolled down the document and I thought we'd rolled the clip, but obviously for me, there are more than just a few pages. So yeah, Nomiya versus Aztec, the final one of the night. Nomiya get to close out week 2 with a bang up against Aztec. And it pretty much seems to be, lads, that the narrative of what we've discussed with these matchups so far is don't underestimate your opponent. If you are the highest seed, don't look down on the little guy. Come into this with no complacency, you know. Do not take prisoners. You are looking to win. You're looking to get clean results. And at the end of the day, regardless if you're versus the 8th seed or the 2nd seed, you want to build morale, right? So Nomiya versus Aztec will be a much closer game than some of the other games they're going to have, but even still, it feels to me as if preparation, as well as a complete disregard for complacency, has to be the key for many of these teams.
Yeah. I think you have to look at the mid-season brawl. How many, you know, no one expected any of the NA teams even do well. You know, Method got knocked out, straight sets. So there's big things happening. If you prepare well enough and you make sure you're in the right position, making the drafts happen correctly, anything can happen. I obviously think, you know, all our picks are going to be closely on point. I think the only one that really could go down to the wire is the Outlaws Crimson one. Sure. Just depending on if Crimson shows up for the day. But, you know, under preparing, you're going to get put in the dirt. That's kind of the thought we're having here, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. With this matchup, I think we all believe that Nomiya will take this out comfortably. But I think a game like this for Aztec is just like so much learning you can get from this. Like, oh my god, Nomiya punished us so hard when we did this, when other teams actually probably wouldn't punish them as hard for it, right? So it's like after that game, you look back, oh, this is a mistake we made, you know, patch that up, make sure that's not happening again. You play against like these lesser off teams, and like they're going to seem a lot easier once you actually take all the information from this game and just learn from it. Because I do know that Aztec are kind of probably one of the hardest grinding teams out there. They're very hungry, so you know, big matches like these, they feed off them.
Yeah, Hacky left them he thought for a reason and they ended up not qualifying. So they've got big things to prove. If
Yeah.
anything, they're that one team that wants to show that they can do it without their leader, their captain, and so I'm hoping they do and they put the effort in and they make things happen.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like the story of dealing with your ex-girlfriend and saying, look how happy I am. You got those little Facebook photos and say like, 1 month on, I couldn't be happier, right? But on a serious note, I feel as if yeah, you're correct. And with the backing of an organization, that does add a degree of pressure to your shoulders, understandably, right?
Yeah.
You have the org and the management behind you in whatever capacity supporting you, be that through gear or financial aid or even just managerial expertise. So when you have that riding on you, you can't afford to slack off like maybe some of these other teams do, where they run themselves, autonomously. So I would expect a team like Aztec to say, if we don't win or if we don't really challenge them, let's really grind at this, as Morton already touched on, and actually look at these replays and go into these next few weeks saying we versed some of the best teams so far. This is what we can now deploy, try and really stamp our authority as a top of that, say, mid-tier ladder.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that just about does it for us on episode number 1. Lads, anything that you've really missed out? Any shout-outs that you'd like to make, Strider?
Mate, the only shout out I want to make is yourself. You're looking beautiful today.
On,
I'm excited
So
to have the boys in the cast. You do look good. No, it's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm excited for the Premier League to kick off into week 2. Week 1 was a blast. We got 2.3 thousand viewers on the stream. Was it, Skimmy?
3.6 nearly, bro.
Yeah.
It was insane. The
Yeah,
fact
so
that we
awesome.
were featured on the launcher in game on Reddit, this is the kind of experience. The kind of exposure that we as a region have been craving for so long. To see that we were high even in like the Chinese broadcast for many years, it's like, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it shows that our Premier League is going to be strong, as we've all said tonight. The 8 teams in this league are going to show that they're meant to be here, and we're excited to see for the next few weeks.
Cool.
Morton?
I'd say quick shout out to the guys at Blizzard ANZ who basically string this whole thing together. Pushing that to get onto the Battle.net launcher. The marketing, like the amount of improvement it's made on viewership and people actually interested in ANZ Heroes of the Storm is just insane. Like a year ago, it was probably what you'd get maybe average 50 viewers. So yeah, it's been a pretty insane kind of increase in just interest in general. Shout out to GameStar as well for obviously run the league, produce it all, stream it all, for Blizzard. Shout out to the casters as well, like yourself, Skimmy, mate. Keep it up. Keep people entertained, and all the players that keep grinding and actually give something for people to tune into every Tuesday and Thursday.
Awesome, bro. So I suppose that really does wrap things up for this pilot episode of Good Call, Bad Call, a brand new podcast in the ANZ region, looking to really dive deep into the nitty-gritty of competitive Heroes of the Storm. Please feel free to drop your feedback via any social media channel. That may be by Twitter, in-game, even from a DM as well. We'd love to see what your thoughts and opinions are on this one. We are looking to try and really flesh this out and add another element to the ANZ entertainment community. But until then, we'll see you next time.